Okay, today we're going to be talking about the Oregon Country and the term manifest destiny. The essential questions that you should be thinking about is why did Americans want to control Oregon Country? And what is manifest destiny? You are welcome to just listen and watch, or I would highly recommend taking notes as there will be questions asked about this later on. So the Oregon Country, seen up here, was a huge area located north of California between the Pacific and the Rocky Mountains. It included at that point all of Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, plus what is now Montana and Wyoming. In the early 1800s, 4 nations claimed this area. The U.S. based its claim on Robert Gray's discovery of the Columbia River in 1792 and Lewis and Clark's expedition. Great Britain explored the Columbia River as well. Spain controlled California, and Russia had settlements south from Alaska into Oregon. Many Americans wanted control of Oregon in order to gain access to the Pacific Ocean. In 1819, Secretary of State John Quincy Adams got Spain to approve the Adams-Onis Treaty. This meant that Spain agreed to set limits of their territory at what is now California's northern border and give up all claims to Oregon. In 1824, Russia also gave up its claims to the land south of Alaska. However, dealing with Great Britain was more complicated. In 1818, Adams worked out an agreement with Britain for joint occupation, which meant that people from both the U.S. and Great Britain could settle in that area. When Adams became president in 1825, he proposed that the two nations divide Oregon along the 49 north latitude line, but Britain refused, and the countries extended the joint occupation. So into this area, fur traders became the first Americans to take up the challenge of living here. They came to trap beavers, whose skins were in great demand in Europe, and the British established trading posts in this region. At first, the fur merchants traded with the Native Americans, and gradually others began to join the trade. These tough, independent men spent most of their time in the Rocky Mountains. They had Native American wives. They lived in buffalo skin lodges and dressed in fringed buckskin pants, moccasins, and beads. However, over time, the mountain men could no longer make a living by trapping. Over-trapping the animals limited the amount of pelts available, and changes in fashion reduced demand of pelts. Some moved to Oregon and settled on farms. Other Americans soon followed. Among the first settlers were Dr. Marcus Whitman and his wife Narcissa. They were missionaries who went to Oregon in 1836 and built a mission among the Cayuse people near the present site of Walla Walla, Washington. They wanted to provide medical care and convert the natives to Christianity. Unfortunately, the new settlers unknowingly brought measles to the mission. Native Americans had never been exposed to the disease, and the epidemic killed many of the children. The Native Americans blamed the Whitmans. They attacked the mission in November of 1847 and killed the Whitmans and 11 others. The Whitman massacre was a shocking event, but people continued to come. Drawn by reports of the fertile Oregon land and driven by economic hard times in the East, many Americans hit the trail. These pioneers left the U.S. to go to Oregon Country. In about 1843, 1,000 immigrants made the journey. Tens of thousands would continue to follow. Before the difficult 2,000-mile journey, these pioneers packed all of their belongings. They stuffed their canvas-covered wagons with supplies. From a distance, these wagons looked like schooners or ships at sea, and people called them prairie schooners. Many people in the Americas believed that our nation's mission was to spread freedom by settling the entire continent. In 1819, John Quincy Adams expressed what many Americans were thinking when he said expansion to the Pacific was as certain as the Mississippi River flowing to the sea. In the 1840s, a term was coined called manifest destiny, which was the belief that the U.S. was destined by God to extend its boundaries all the way to the Pacific. Many Americans wanted the U.S. to take over all of Oregon. In the 1844 presidential election, James K. Polk, the Democratic nominee, supported this desire. Democrats used the slogan 5440 or fight, referring to the line of latitude they believed should be the nation's northern border in Oregon. A firm believer in manifest destiny, Polk won the election and focused on acquiring Oregon. Britain would not accept a border at 5440, but in 1846 the two countries compromised. They set the border at 49 north latitude. It was the same boundary the British had rejected 21 years before when John Quincy Adams had asked for that.